Hello everybody, Jose Rodriguez here. If you guys caught my last live stream or have been watching it after the fact, you may have noticed that I brought up a point where I was saying that there's really not much new information that I can provide you guys other than just basically repeating myself. Everything that had to do with setting up, with driver settings, with any of the parameters that you use for normal color managed workflow has been around for years. Okay, it applies to everything that we have currently. These new printers do not require anything new, anything that we already knew from years and years ago of color managed experience. So I thought, well, I think we are at a standstill at this point because, again, neither one of these major companies has put out anything new in the last several years, and I have not seen or heard or smelled any rumors that will tell me otherwise. Again, there's really nothing new, nothing groundbreaking that will be coming in the next maybe even a couple of years. So we are, I wouldn't want to say stuck, but we have what we have. So if you're a brand new viewer, refer to our playlist that we have here, over 60 of them, and they actually are categorized by subject. So please go back and do your searching. You have a question in your head, go back to those playlists and find a category that you think might fit your basic question, and very likely you will find a video covering that subject and giving you the answers that you're looking for. But you know what? I decided to go ahead and rehash some things anyway. And I don't want to make this into a ranty type video, but again, more of an informative video. I had to write them down. And by the way, I'm going to be doing something after this. It's going to be a computer tutorial. I'll show you what I'm talking about at the end. So again, please stay with me until the very end. I'll show you what I'm going to demonstrate how to achieve at the very end. Okay, so I wanted to call this some kind of catchy name, but if you notice this, do that. In other words, you notice some problem with your printer, and again, it could be a visual problem, it could be a technical problem, it could be a mechanical problem. Whatever the problem is, you're going to have to learn how to troubleshoot that problem and not spend time looking at some other irrelevant item within your printer or your color management or whatever. Learn how to troubleshoot. Now, what if you print something? Let me see if I got an example here for you. Here's a good one. What if you print something and instead of seeing a nice deep black, you get what looks like almost a half negative, and you go like, what the heck is going on? As you see, everything is very smooth. Every tone from the brightest white, this is pure white, just like the paper border, and all of the other colors are there, including detail that I can see visually here in these very dark areas. But I got very dark tones where there should be dark tones. What if there were mostly grays in these areas? What does that tell you? Something is wrong with the ink flow, okay? So the first thing, before you even blink, the first thing you should do is run a nozzle check. I'll give you an example. This printer right here decided to clog up on the matte black, okay? And okay, I have to admit that I mostly print on luster, glossy, semi-gloss type papers, so matte black just doesn't really get used that much. And this has its own matte black channel, not like the Epson printers that they have to share a black channel. This has its own black channel. And so, okay, my fault has been that I have not been running enough nozzle checks periodically or printing with either matte ink as well as mostly, like I always do, with the photo black glossy ink. So that was totally my fault. So I saw that it was missing a great segment. Wow, scared me to death, of the matte black channel. and I ran some regular cleaning cycles, didn't do squat. Okay, I checked the volume of ink in my matte cartridge, and I had plenty of ink. So all I could do, and a recommendation for you guys, if you ever get a stubborn color that is not flowing, literally you see it on the nozzle check, do not run a global cleaning cycle. Go to the driver, not here, go to the driver and load your maintenance tab and then your nozzle checks. And there you will see that you can choose between one of 3 zones. Each one of those zones will isolate 4 colors out of the 12. So you will not be wasting the other 8 needlessly, since your clog happens to live within a specific zone. So only run those. And I had to run 3 deep cleaning cycles with a rest between each one. Finally got it to work, and I was able to print the print that I'm going to show you at the end. Okay, now what I really need to do is go back and maybe print some of my Canson watercolor paper and maybe print that same photograph and see what happens. That will keep that matte channel exercise. Also, another thing that could happen as a result of this, I got finally 4 channels that are hidden low. And what does that tell me? Remember, I'm running those so-called auto reset chips from China. Okay, my firmware is older than all of you guys' firmware, much older, 2.020. Everyone else is higher than that. So I'm going to check to see, cross fingers, whether those chips will actually even reset. Okay, more than likely they will not. I have other single-use chips that I can replace them with. Okay, no problem there, but I want to check to see if that could be an issue. In other words, the firmware version. Okay, now let's get into the problems that we were discussing. So you see no black. Well, run a nozzle check. That's the first thing you do. Do not continue printing. The moment I realized that there was a problem with the matte black channel, I stopped doing whatever I was doing. Only nozzle checks were printed. You do not ever want to print anything else. If you have a Pro 1000, a Pro 1, a Pro 10, even a Pro 100, you have the ability to isolate a zone. With the Pro 100, I believe it is 2 zones, 4 colors each. With the Pro 10, I believe it's 2 zones, 5 colors each. I need to go back and check. The Pro 1 is just like this one, 3 zones, 4 colors each. Only run the cleaning cycle for the channel that is affected. In other words, not the others. Don't run a global one. It'll waste way too much ink. And with those other printers over there, the 1, the 10, the 100, that ink gets stored internally. You do not want to add needlessly waste ink to your internal pads. This has externally removed or user replaceable waste ink cartridges. I've gone through 3 of them. I'm on my 3rd one right now. So yeah, a lot of ink gets used up. So keep that in mind. So only run a cleaning cycle for the actual channel that is being affected. If you happen to have 2 channels and they live on different zones, hopefully it won't be on all 3 zones. Then again, you can also isolate the other 2 zones and just run the cleaning cycle so that it only affects the channels that need to be unclogged. You see blotches on your prints, meaning mostly on the very surface, and they look literally like somebody took an eyedropper and dropped some ink, and it'll be gunky black ink across with the head travel, the direction of the head travel. And it happens to be an Epson printer, okay? Especially the older ones. Well, like I mentioned earlier, these printers have 8 channels on the printhead, but they house 9 colors. So how do you fit 9 colors on a printhead that uses only 8 channels? Well, you share one of the channels, and that always is the black one. So you will have a single black channel to share photo black and matte black. How do you switch back and forth? How do you do that? Well, there's an internal switching valve built into the damper assembly. And guess what? It fails. How does it fail? From lack of use, because most people worry about the ink being wasted. What ink is being wasted? Well, here's what happens. Say, for instance, you have photo black loaded and you've been printing on glossy or luster paper for quite a while, and now you want to do some fine art printing on a matte, nice, heavy duty, rough surface paper. You have to switch over to matte black. So you choose that paper, and now the printer will run the black ink switch valve to allow the photo black ink that was in the damper to be ejected and to allow matte black ink to fill that same damper. So it uses a certain amount of ink. Every time you do that, it will use a certain amount of ink. And I'm wondering whether it uses only black ink. I think all of the inks are affected, maybe. I could be completely wrong. But nevertheless, it does waste ink. But here's the thing. If you never switch, that switching valve gets stuck. And when it forcibly gets unstuck, say a year later when you finally do a switch, it will kind of rip itself apart from the last sealing surface, and it will never seal again. And so now you have uncontrolled leaking, ink being dropped literally on your prints. And usually that happens with the photo black for whatever the reason. I don't know mechanically how that works, but it seems that everybody that has problems with the so-called black ink switch valve is with the photo black ink. Literally, your photo black cartridge will leak out. Literally, sometimes it won't even print at all. So you are basically stuck with a printer like me, an R3000 that I can only use with matte black ink at this point, period. I cannot use it whatsoever with photo black. I would need to replace the whole system. What system? The ink delivery system. That means the compartment where the cartridges install, the hoses or ink lines that lead to the print head, the damper assembly, which also contains that black ink switch valve. Yeah. So what about the P600? That's the new version of the R3000. What about the P800? The new version of the 3880. It seems that they addressed this problem, and I have not heard anyone complaining yet about any kind of ink switching problems. So, knock on wood, maybe they did address it. They just didn't really make it very public and possibly fix the problem by simply redesigning the valve slightly. Now, what else? Again, similar to the first problem where you don't have any black ink printing. If you notice that something that should be pink all of a sudden does not print pink, it prints some other color. And some of the other areas are not as affected, although they could be. Again, anytime you see something weird happening that didn't happen 2 or 3 days ago, or even a month ago. So say you didn't print for a month, and you go ahead and you print something, boom, you immediately can see, hey, wait a second, this doesn't look like what I see on my screen at all. I never get a perfect match, but this is ridiculous. Okay, it looks totally different. Run a nozzle check, the very first thing you do. That's your best diagnostic tool they have provided you with. Run that nozzle check. It tells you exactly how well each one of those color channels is firing. You have to be at 100%. You must be, okay? Even if you're missing a couple of nozzles here and there, okay, you may not see that actually on print, but guess what? If you try to run a head alignment, it's going to error out because it requires all the nozzles to be firing. So odd color results that have nothing to do with color management. Okay, you got that nailed down, you're doing that perfectly, but nevertheless, it still looks crappy, let's just say. That means that one of those colors, 1 or 2 or maybe 3, it depends, especially if you're refilling, and especially on Epson printers that allow you to use refillable cartridges, okay? The Canon printers that we're using the OEM original cartridges, and so those, again, if the refilling process and any modifications that you need to perform to allow you to refill have been done perfectly, and you have refilled perfectly, and your ink flow is as good as OEM, you should not have any problems. But with the Epson refillable cartridges that People may be using on the P600, even the P800, even with that so-called chipless software or firmware. Again, it's all about those cartridges and how reliable they are. So more than likely, weird things will occur, I'll have to say, on Epson printers running on refillable cartridges, period. Because just the performance is not ever going to be as good as OEM. Okay? So, nozzle check, folks. Nozzle check, nozzle check, nozzle check every single time. And that will tell you, oh, I'm losing half my yellow. No wonder everything looks magenta and cyanish, because I have no yellow to neutralize everything. Again, black. Oh, my blacks look gray. They should be black. Those shadows should be black. My border that I did on my print, that happened to be black, like a maybe a stroke that you put around your images. That should be black. But if it comes out like gray, then your black is not firing. Your black channel is not firing, whether it is the matte black or the photo black. In this case, it was the matte black. Totally my fault. Okay. So anyway, that is something you need to remember. Always, always, always print that nozzle check, especially before an important job. I did that today and realized, oh my goodness, something is not correct, before I printed that image that I'm going to show you at the end of this video. One of my favorite subjects. This might raise the ire of some of the folks out there that use Mac OS. But again, I mean this in the nicest way possible, because it's true, okay? Hardly ever happens with Windows. I'm not saying it can, but hardly ever will happen. At least not to me anyway, so far. Updating your OS. Now, the way Windows 10 does it is it'll just be eternally updated in increments. I don't think there's going to be a Windows 11 ever coming out. So we're stuck with Windows 10. However good or bad that is, we're stuck with it. But so far, I have not had any kind of problems or incompatibilities with any of the tools that are used for your printers. In other words, other pieces of software, especially this puppy right here, Accounting Manager, Media Configuration Tool, all of those things. Mac users, usually, and this is very common. Have you seen the lines at the store when the new iMac is going to come out or the new iPhone is going to come out? Yeah, they're standing there motionless, waiting, because it's new and I have to have it. Folks, this is coming from the heart, okay? Don't get mad at me. New OS come out. Right now it's Catalina for the Mac OS. Don't download it and install it, okay? Especially if you're a photo printer. If you're not, by all means, go ahead, keep up to date. Don't even wait 2 seconds to make up your mind. But if you are a photo printer, just hang on. Hang on and wait and see if anyone else is reporting problems. Guess what? Yeah, there are problems. Of course. Of course. All of a sudden, the Accounting Manager and the Media Configuration Tool are not working. They can't find the printer. Can you imagine that? Why is that? I have no clue. Does Canon just not care about Mac OS? Or does Mac not tell Canon, hey, we're about to update our operating system. Can you update your softwares? There's a lack of communication somewhere, and it's happening. So my advice, okay, and take this the nicest way you can, because I really don't mean it to criticize or be mean. Please do not update your operating system as soon as it's available. Just because I gotta have it, I must update. No. Unhypnotize yourself. Wait, just let it ride. If it ain't broke, remember, okay, let it ride and see what happens. Plenty of forums out there you can visit, and you will hear people complaining. Those who immediately update and realize, oh man, my driver cannot find my ICC profiles anymore. Happens all the time. In fact, I hate to say it, but I frequent quite a few forums. I spend a lot of time just lurking in these forums. And every time I see or hear or read about a weird, odd problem that I go like, I have never seen that happen before. I'm on a iMac or I'm on a, yeah, it's always due to the Mac OS. And it's not because it's bad, it's because of the lack of communication between these driver companies, software companies. I don't know where the fault lies, but there's always going to be problems. Expect them, okay? Expect them. So far, they seem to favor Windows. Don't ask me why, okay? But again, like I said, with 13 printers in the house right now, I have never experienced a problem with any drivers all of a sudden not being recognized, or ICC profiles no longer being found, or any kind of odd color management problem where it defaults back to some original. No, it doesn't happen. Okay, so just be careful. Do not update immediately. Just give it a bit of time and start scouring all of those forums and see if you, even my Facebook group, just come on board, join us, and throw the question out there. Hey, have any of you guys updated to Catalina? And have you noticed any problems? Believe me, the folks in my Facebook group, they're all photo printers. So they will tell you immediately, okay, if there's any problem. That is all I wanted to bring up, okay? Again, don't take it the wrong way. I really mean it from the bottom of my heart. Don't cause yourself any unneeded problems by immediately upgrading, okay? I turn my updates off in my computer. I manually update if I feel that I need to. If it's some kind of security fix of some sort, yeah, I will allow that to come on board and, make sure that I just don't close my eyes and let everything happen automatically. That's the problem. All right, thank you so much. I'm going to show you now what I am going to then take you in the next video to my computer and show you how to do a similar image, because I'm going to go out today and I'm going to shoot some aerial photos, that is. Okay. I'm going to wait for the sun to drop a little bit so I get some beautiful lighting up my street. The trees are turning nice and orange, and so now is the best time before all the leaves fall out. Here you go. So recently I was over at Nathan's house. I flew the Anafi 4K 21 megapixel camera and produced this image of their house. And I'm telling you, you can see every single shingle. You can count just about every single pebble of gravel. It's just gorgeous, okay? This image starts out as a DNG, straight out of the drone camera. And then I took it into Lightroom, and there I applied some profiles that are part of Lightroom's basically camera and lens profile system. And that applies corrections that are necessary for lens curvature, for whatever the case may be. In fact, it even detects whether you zoomed at a certain focal length, say if you're using a DSLR with a zoom lens, and you are, say, 35 to 55, and you may be at 47 millimeters focal length, it will actually apply a correction for that particular setting. It will remove all of your curvature, all of your any kind of distortion, barrel or pincushion, and fix your image instantly. Then I'm going to show you how I applied color, if you will. I actually color corrected this image. I increased the dynamic range to its maximum. I'll show you how to do that as well. And then I'll show you how to set it up to be printed on something like this right here. All right, so that'll be the next video. So make sure you catch that. It should be out possibly, I would say in a day or so. All right, thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like. Again, remember, Saturday evening live stream, 26,500 plus subscribers. And we only get 22 watchers during the live stream. You're losing a huge opportunity to learn and to ask questions. I normally charge for one-on-one, okay, on the phone. This is your chance. Come on board on Saturday evenings, 5 o'clock Eastern Time, United States. And there I will then take care of any problems that you may have, as long as I can find the answer for you, or advise you how to eliminate whatever problem you're experiencing. But again, it's a great time to have between us. I give you news, I give you updates, I give you little mini lectures on different subjects. It's always a heck of a lot of fun. And again, you could always watch it later, but it's best to be there live so that you can then instantly interact with us in the chat. All right, so that is my pitch out to you guys. Of course, you got to be free that evening. And I get people from even Eastern Europe, which is ridiculous because it's like early morning over there. All right, thank you so much. Happy printing, everybody, and bye-bye.